Hey everybody. As probably has become abundantly clear, I'm not a one project kind of guy. Let's face it, I've got the project that I did to set up my home studio here. I've got my project that I did with the TP-Link Omada stuff to set up all my switches and things. I've played with Ubuntu and Mint Linux to set up a DNS server, SQL server, schedule task server, the movie processors that I've done to store my media library. Um, Even got a little Minecraft server here to go set things up. I've also done the solar projects, right? Getting the panels up. Got more of that to do this year. We've got the battery setup in place with the 12 kilowatts worth of storage, plus my other smaller units of 2 and 768 watts. And I've got a box downstairs that I can start to put in place to have an electrician come in and finish up that will handle those circuits in the house that I want to make sure are taken care of. In addition to that, I'm a photographer. Work on computer systems for most of the day, and have a new project of building out a new server based on some new and some used parts. One thing that's always easy to get is there's always a gamer out there who wants to get rid of their old rig, just wants to swap out the insides of the tower and not the tower itself. So motherboards and memory and graphics cards and things get swapped in and out. The old ones go up for sale. And it's a good way to get a hold of some things. But in addition to all that, I've got a new project that I'm doing, and that's to set up an Etsy shop. I'm setting it up for a couple of reasons. One is there was a little cat self-defense thing that I was making for friends that has gotten very popular, and was suggested that maybe I should sell them. But while I was looking at that, there's something I can do that blends my photography, all of the 3D generative art stuff that I've done, and the 3D printing stuff that I've done, and that's to make bookmarks. So I'm beginning with AI generated bookmarks. Now, these were simple things that I've done. Butterflies, one half of a tiger's face, lily pads, a raven. So I'm trying to go through, got a little bunny one for that matter, and make some animal ones, some flower ones. But while I'm doing that, I've got my ones with clouds and waves and that kind of thing. I'm also a photographer. So I'm going to branch my photography into my 3D printing. And what that's going to entail is taking my pictures that I've captured. As you guys know, I go to the fort quite a bit. They have a beautiful garden there. So that'll give me a lot of ability to get things with flowers, right? In addition, they're over a lake, which is a lot of open area. Something I don't have here quite so much. I've got mountains on one complete side and a lot of trees. But there's a lot of open space over the water that I can capture clouds and things to make more of these bookmarks with my photographs for a change. Now, once you're done with the photograph, it doesn't just go into a 3D print. That's not how the way it works. So what you have to do is you have to figure out how that's going to render on a 3D print. Now, remember, when you're using a 3D printer, it does it in layers. Now, if you're doing a lithophane, the lithophanes, they want to be done on one edge. So the base will be down, and it'll build itself up from there, which means you're going to have some kind of border around it, something to hold it, because the lithophane itself is probably not going to be that thick. You can go very thick with them if you want to, but the lithophanes I've been doing, I've been in the 2 mil to 4 mil range, which is not very thick. And in order for it to stand upright for the size that I'm doing, it needs to have some kind of supports. And having a frame around it makes for a simple support that will keep everything in place. But again, because of the way the printer is going, having it done standing up makes the lines a little better. Gives it a little bit more, just a little bit more detail. I've done the same image laid down as I did sitting up, and upright just gives me a little bit more crispness to the image that I've got. But when you're doing these bookmarks, you're going to be printing them laying down, which means you're going to have a black background, right? So the bottom of it's going to be black. But because you're printing in layers, that entire layer is going to be a color. So when you print white, that entire layer is going to be white. Now, the way that these are printed is kind of the same way a lithophane is printed in reverse. So remember, a lithophane does things so that the white is the thinnest part of it, right? What's going to have the most light through it is the thinnest part, obviously. The darker parts, the blacks of it, are going to be a thicker part of the image. Here, you're going to want the colors to come out at different layers, different levels, such that if you've got a white flower with a yellow stamen, you're going to want that white flower to be, let's say, at levels 20 to 25, and that stamen to be at 26 to 27. That will allow you to put several layers of white in and then change over to make it the yellow-orange of the stamen. Now, again, because it's front lit, you're going to get a little reflection through the material. So depending on the types of material you're using, if you're going for a yellow-orange and you've got 2 or 3 layers, you're probably going to have to figure out which is going to have to be on top. Is it going to be the orange so that the yellow bounces through because your orange is a little thinner, lets a little more light through, or so it's a little more transparent? Or are you going to want to put the yellow on the top and one layer of orange, because the orange is going to just come through that yellow because the yellow is more transparent? So you've got to work that out. One way to do that is to use a program like HueForge that allows you to get an idea of what it's going to look like. So the way HueForge works is, imagine if you were printing it, right? So you've got your printer set up where you're going to change different filaments at different levels. Same thing here. You're going to put different filaments in at different levels. In order for it to work properly, you're going to have to know what the color is of your the colors that you're using. So not just orange, but what's the actual numerical value of that color. And you're going to want to know what its transparency is. Now, there's ways of getting that. They've got a small device. Another project that I've got on my plate here is to put it together because there aren't any more pre-assembled ones out there. It's a kit. Interestingly enough, part of the kit is 3D printed, so you have to print the casing yourself. But that device, once assembled, will take a piece of filament and tell you what the color numbers are for it, what the hexadecimal numbers are, and how much light's coming through it. So with those numbers in place, you then, in HueForge, put the filaments at the different levels. And you put the next filament at the next level, wherever you need to put it. So for example, with our yellow and orange, if you've got, we'll go with 3 because it makes it a little easier. So you want to put 2 layers of yellow and a top layer of orange. You can put that into HueForge, and HueForge will render what that should look like based off of the data that you've given it about your yellow and your orange. And then you can see, is that the color that you're looking for? If it's not, try swapping it out, all right? Go for a yellow and then, or go for orange and then put the yellow on the top layer. You're doing 3 layers, maybe you're going to do an orange and then a yellow and then an orange on the top, just to get a little bit more pop to that color. Again, in order for that to work, you need a way to render it, and you need to have a printer for ease of use that's capable of doing multicolor. Can you do it yourself? Of course you can. You can have a single color printer, which was where I started out, and then you have to take that roll out every single time you need to change the color, which means losing a little bit, which you also lose with a multicolor printer. I'm not going to throw shade here. Both of them are going to lose some of that filament because you've got to extrude what's already in the line, pull it back, clip it off, put it back in again. So you're always going to have a little bit of loss when you do it. It's just much easier when you have a printer that allows it to take multiple inputs and do it itself. That means you can just set up you can worry about your image that you're using and the HueForge part of it and not worry so much about the printing. Once you're done with your HueForge, you're not done yet. That HueForge will tell you where you put the things and what layers you put in what you did as a printout. Now, why is that important? Because then if you're going to go back to it later on, it's there for you and you can go get it. Now, I use Creality's print program. So if you're going through and you're doing that, you can set it all up and then you can save that result. So once you've got all your colors in place, now you have another place that you've got it saved. So you can rely on the old first generation stuff that came out of HueForge as a backup. It's got the STL in it. It's got the textual description of what you need to do. Then you go into Creality and you save it as a print job, and that will have everything where it needs to be with the STL. So you can just load that job up later on when you want to print it again. So it gives you a backup should something happen to your jobs. Again, if this is something you're going to be doing, make sure that you have backup copies of all of the stuff that you're going to be selling. Also, I would recommend that you name it. And then when you use something like Etsy, put that in as the SKU, right? So if you're saving, I've got Raven 1 because it's the first Raven that I came up with. That's my SKU, is Raven 1. That's the STL file name. That is the name of the model, the print job. In addition to that, you're going to need to take pictures of what you're doing, maybe videos of it. Keep it all named the same. That way it makes it easier for you to find it later on and then back it all up. Make sure you've got copies of everything just in case. But I'm doing this with sourced tassels because I don't have the time to make my own tassels, so I've got to buy them. But I can set these up on the print job and just let them go. So in addition to all the other projects I've got going on that I'll update you on as I go, I'm also going to update you on how the Etsy store is doing as well. I just started it up. It's not a very brilliant name. It's 3D Items LD Photography because I'm running it as part of the photography business. But again, as I get these other things done, as I put the computer together and things, I'll be updating you guys on what I'm using. As a side note to another project, when you've got a computer, you want to make sure that you keep your drives. You know what the lifespans on the drives are going to be. And there's a lot of ways to do that. There's a crystal disk viewer that you can get that's in the Windows store if you're a Windows user. And what that will allow you to do is see what your drives are like, but more importantly, find out what the temperature on the drives are going to be. Now, personally, I have a rack of USB drives, and this will allow me to know if they're getting overheated. And if they are getting overheated, I can throw some air at them. In addition to that, there's a hard drive monitor that you can get. It's called Hard Drive Sentinel. It doesn't seem to just sit and notify you, but you can run it occasionally, and that will give you an idea of how much longer your drives will live. Now, that's important because you want to know when you're going to have to swap out your drives. right? I've got a drive here, an old internal drive that I'm using as a temporary storage spot. And Sentinel tells me it's got 24 days left to live. Okay. It's not a critical drive for me. It's just a temp storage. So if it dies, it dies. I've got another SSD that just had a failure running under Mint Linux, and I was able to bring it back. But according to HD Sentinel, it's telling me that it's got about 81 days of life left. Time to order a new SSD, get it set off to the side, and get ready to start backing things up. So before I hit that threshold, I'll probably use that SSD as another temp storage spot, because having an SSD to do some temporary stuff on, like when you're rendering Premiere Pro videos, or even when you're doing the Audible audition stuff, when it needs to have a temp storage while it's recording things, having that SSD is a great way to have it. And if it fails, it's not as critical as anything else. So another thing to keep in mind is knowing not only that you've got backup, but knowing how well those drives are doing and when you need to replace them. So I know it was a lot this week. It's a lot longer than normal, but that's what I got for you guys this week. And I'll update you guys on all the projects again next week.